Welcome everybody to another exciting chess video here. Today we're going over a lesson of making some sort of weakness in your enemy's territory, and what we're doing today is creating a weak pawn. And how we're doing that is we're looking over this good example game of doing a minority attack. So it's pretty much 2 versus 3 type of scenario of pawns in a middle game. During this game, when I'm also gonna give out a couple little tactical quizzes a little bit during the game. And if you want, whenever I say a tactic, you have a choice of pausing right there, give yourself 2 minutes to solve it, and then go on and see if you got it right or wrong. But you will see the quick little answer. Okay, here. So this game's between Eberbach and Donner in the area of Beverwyck, 1962, pretty much 50 years ago. So, this game is quite amazing how a position can collapse when you actively seek to create targets and attack them. So, you ready? Let's see how these guys play this game, and we're viewing this from the white side, so it should be white's game. Okay, ready? Let's go. D4, D5, C4, E6, knight F3, knight F6, knight C3, bishop E7. Takes. And I don't know exactly what this opening is called, and actually I like this move right here. It's quite interesting, because the bishop comes out here. But then we're going to swap bishops. And then castles. And I think this is like a Queen's Gambit decline, some sort of variation, but it's a normal, similar opening I'll be playing a lot. Okay, after this, it's, neither side has any weaknesses, but, white wants to, try to start something up, strike at something or create something, make the war start happening, make some excitement. We can't just keep on playing with this boring game with no weaknesses. That's, not gonna be fun, Josh, for both sides. So we gotta start something here. And White actually sees something. He can start his minority attack, with somewhat these two pawns versus these three pawns. Start attacking in a way. And how he does that is he wants to get this pawn to the square right here. Problem is this bishop's right here, which is also guarding this square. So how we can remove that bishop and start our minority attack is pretty simple. All we have to do is attack this knight, and this bishop will take again, but it will not be covering the square, and we can start launching our pawns, or our pawn for the minority attack. That's what we want to do. So if you can move a piece away from a certain square, hey, you can, start your little attack going, right? So that's what we want to do. We want to start our minority attack right now with bishop takes f6. Now, if the bishop does not take back, he loses a piece. We gotta stay even in our game if we were on the black side. Okay, so this draws the black bishop away from the critical b4 square and allows white to safely advance his pawns to that square. So now, after b4, knight d7, b5. Now, what if he pushes his pawn to c5? Well, it's pretty simple here. White just wins a pawn and actually threatens to attack this bishop. So white should clearly win a pawn right there, then there if he pushes his c-pawn. So that's not the correct move by black. And if he actually takes, if from what I see right now, is the queen can take and actually threatens two pawns. So actually the in this game the knight came out, and let's see here, where was I at? La di da da. We like the party. Okay. Knight B. Okay, so then we take B takes and B takes. Usually, using your B pawn taking the C pawn is not a bad thing because then you can kind of start creating a weakness right here on the C6 square during your minority attack. So, and now that is a key square that we're going to attack because that is a backwards pawn. So, what are we doing now? We're burning our rooks into the game. We're going to start off with this rook here. So, when rook A C1 comes in, white brings his pieces to bear on the C6 target. Bishop E7, rook C2, bishop D6, knight to B1. And why? Because he's going to bring his knight to D2 to, you know, start partying with the other knight and go attack with one another. They start, forming up as a team. They need to, sometimes it's good to have knights, connecting to each other. They start attacking pretty well together. So, okay. After knight B1, rook C8, he has to protect rook FC1, and now queen F6. Pretty interesting move. So now if you want to, I got a little thing here. After rook takes this pawn, there's a tactic. So if you want to give yourself 2 minutes to try to figure out this, pause your video right now. Okay, and if you pause your video, cool, you might have solved it. If you didn't, well, then you'll see the answer anyway. So this is a little blunder. If white plays this, this is not the correct move. So if white decides to play rook takes c6, this is a really bad move because let's see here. Because since this queen here moved to f6, and black indirectly defends the c6 pawn, and now after the rook takes c6, loses to rook takes back, followed by, rook takes, and now the discovered check, bishop, sacrifices, but exposes the rook, and so pretty much black is going to win, I think, back and pawn, but also has a better piece value thing going on. So yeah, it's going to be queen and 2 knights versus queen, knight, and rook, and black should win this game easily. So instead of rook, when the queen moves to f6 here, instead of rook takes, the what white actually did was move his knight to d2, which is the correct move. White brings his knight back into play. Never leave a knight sitting around on the first rank. He also keeps the enemy horse out of c4, which is very critical. If the enemy knight jumps to c4 right here, we just won a pawn. So, rook c7, still has a threat. So, g3, and now this move restricts the scope of the black bishop and gives the king a little room to breathe. Now, rook takes c6 is a real threat, so he has to move his other rook to, protect it. It's 2-on-2, attackers versus defenders. And now king to g2 protects the knight, so black is on the defensive, so white takes a moment off to bring an extra defender to his f3 knight. This king also keeps enemy pieces out of h3. Okay, and that's right here. Okay, let's see here. Queen e7, e4. We're now white gains space in the center now. He doesn't fear the d pawn taking the e4 because of knight taking e4. So if this takes, we just take back, and just helps to activate his knight. True, white would then have an isolated d pawn, but none of the black pieces would be in a position to attack it, and it has to take quite a few moves to bring all of his pieces to attack this d pawn here. So there's no need to fear. The knight is here. Okay, so now bishop to b4, and there's nothing to fear about. h4, gaining a little space on the king side. Queen to d8. The only thing I can think of is bringing the queen closer to the the party of the battlegrounds, and it possibly maybe moving this bishop back if needed to in the future. That's why he moves to d8. Okay, and e5. White keeps taking more and more space, realizing that he is being pushed back on all fronts. Black tries to activate his pieces with c6 to c5, which we see right here. This move right here we just made. Now this is just fireworks start going off right here. So d takes c5, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, and now bishop takes. Black managed to get the rooks off the board. A good trade because the white rooks were more active than their black counterpartners, but he still has an isolated d-pawn. White hastened to block it with his knights, fixing the pawn on d5, and also demonstrating that his knights have found a permanent hole on d4. Remember, always strive to dominate the square directly in front of an isolated pawn. So now a good move here is knight to b3. We're attacking the bishop right now. So the bishop has to run away. And now the question is, do you want to move this knight here, or do you want to move this knight here? Which knight do you want to do? Well, the correct answer is moving this knight, because this knight is protecting both that knight and this pawn. And ever if this knight gets traded off, we can bring the other knight in and still create havoc. So, okay, this knight is very strong on d4. And now, here comes another what-if scenario. What if black plays knight to c4? Quite interesting. Here's another tactic. Now, if you want, pause your video and think about it for 2 minutes and try solving it right now. Okay, so maybe you came back, maybe you didn't. But here's the answer, whether if you try solving it or not. The move would be, why is knight c4 a blunder? Because knight to c6, forking the queen and the bishop. Queen moves down right here, but then pretty much white should be winning a free pawn, but the queen is hanging. Or is it? If the black queen takes, now we got a deadly fork here. So that's why knight c4 is not a great move for black, because here we just won a piece. So pretty much it's two knights versus a knight. That should be an easy game. Easy game for white. So the correct move, or actually what black did, is to play queen to c8. And it does quite a few things. It's controlling the c-file. It's protecting the square from the queen in case this queen wants to get there. And maybe if this knight wants to jump to the square, supported a little bit more by the queen. Well, maybe not. I don't know if that's a good move. Oh no, I meant the queen is protecting this square, not the c4 at all. It's protecting two squares. So, okay then, let's get it on. The queen moves here. So queen c8, queen b5, king f8 has to get in case of, some crazy move happens. In case the queen really goes down c-file. Doesn't want to get forked and lose his bishop. Now, knight to c6. White is eyeing on the a7 pawn and this pawn here too. It's eyeing on two pawns, and it's also eyeing on this bishop. So it's just with that move alone, just creates a lot of targets for white to attack. So queen comes to b7, further protects his pawn, and now we're bringing the other knight in. You know, we want to bring all of our pieces into the game. That's the main thing. If you want to go on the attack, you want to try to bring all your pieces in. You're going to be more successful bringing all your pieces than just run around with your queen. Not too many times you could just win with your queen alone. So it's clear that black's bishop is inferior to white's knights as of right now. A6. Oh, the only move white could really do to keep the pressure on going is to move to A5. And king E8 gets a little bit closer. But now the king is, you know, getting too close to the battlefield. He's a little bit too exposed. Knight takes E7. White would not, the white pieces would not normally be in a hurry to trade off his wonderful knight, but the exposed position of the black king gives white a chance to start a decisive attack. So if ever you have all your pieces on the attacking end and his king starts getting closer and closer to unprotection, you can start attacking, and tactics should arise, and you should just have a big attack going on. So king takes E7, queen checks, and king E8, E6. Okay, and if ever he takes with the E pawn, then you have a choice of either queen to D6 or knight takes E6. Those are two really strong moves. But instead, he played knight C8. So now, here's a check. What does the king gonna do? He has to take. He has no choice. Otherwise, we get a queen. So, okay, now let's start the, you know, attack. The knight comes into the play, which threatens the amazing fork right here, and also the queen threatens to take this pawn. So, okay, and what happens is the king's gonna run away even further. Should we just take the pawn? No, we should check the king. That is a very active move. Sometimes you don't just want to pawn gobble. You want to attack the king. If you have a chance to win the game, go for it. Don't just gobble up pieces, unless that's your way of winning and the only way to win. So, let's see here. Okay, king G7, queen checks, king H6, and now queen F6. And this is the final position, and black resigns because of the threats of this knight moving to E5, followed by either this check, which after that check, this queen will move here and it's checkmate, or knight comes here, checks, and then followed by when the knight comes, or king comes here, checkmate. Pardon me. So, but what if a certain moves happen? What if this pawn comes down here and we have a pin, right? What if the pawn moves and then we have a huge pin? Well, the queen's still protecting. We're still going to get our threats in with the attack. We just do a simple move of moving our king to H2, and black has nothing at all. So, okay, white's strategy has paid off pretty much. So, weak enemy pawns don't just magically appear, you must create them. That's the thing, you have to create them. So it takes a lot of creativity. So hopefully you guys learned from this video and enjoyed this video. So stay tuned for next time, and yeah, good night.